Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask Chris Fitzsimon and Rick Henderson, they're calling it culture wars. NC State University is the latest site where students have protested an event sponsored by a conservative college group. The event featured President Trump's daughter-in-law, and organizers say they have every right to hold events on college campuses. The event packed the hall where it was held, but there were hundreds of protesters who say it promoted hate speech. Shouldn't groups of all political, ethnic, and religious persuasions be allowed to hold events on campus? Or is the solution not for any of them to do so? Rick?
Well, first of all, if it's a public university, the First Amendment says that they groups cannot be discriminated against on the basis of their content. So there's a clear free speech issue that doesn't apply, for instance, as much to private campuses as it does to public ones. This is another example, I think, of actually robust debate taking place in which you had a campus organization sponsor a speaker who had issues, perhaps controversial issues to bring up, and there was discussion. There was robust debate. Some of it took place outside the hall because the hall was full, but still the heckler's veto, as it's known as, should not be allowed to stand. People shouldn't be allowed to simply shout other speakers out of existence just because they don't want to hear the message that they have to deliver. This sort of plays up in the Silent Sam debate to some extent too, in that whatever you think about Confederate monuments, the fact that people are allowed to just remove them with impunity and there be no accountability, that's not a good precedent to set at all.
And Chris, I mean, this thing went into the free speech tunnel there at NC State Universities, and there was actually some threat of physical violence that was taking place there. What's your take on this?
Well, first of all, they have the First Amendment gives people the right to use the university campus, but the First Amendment gives right to people to protest people using the university campus. I mean, the protesters have just as much right. They didn't, I don't think, disrupt, in this case, the event. They were robust. They had a protest. The free expression tunnel, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that continues. There were liberal or progressive people who were student activists who were painting over some conservative things in the free expression tunnel, which is allowed and is the point of the free expression tunnel. A conservative activist actually got in the way of somebody spray painting and then claimed that he was assaulted, which is absurd. I think we're getting to the point where people all think they're James O'Keefe and want to be on YouTube and be heroes to their cause. I think in some ways this is all much ado about nothing. People have the First Amendment right to say what they please. People have the right to protest, and I think they should if they are outraged and have an organized group. I think this is being sort of ginned up in some ways by one side, especially the folks who think somehow they were affronted in the what is called the free expression tunnel.
Reminds me of the speaker ban laws back in the 1960s, when we did not allow people who were avowed communists to come on our college campuses. The courts then ruled you can't stop them. And,
although it'd be interesting to put that to a vote in the legislature today, wouldn't it?
Well, the courts may still have something to say about that, though.
This was a fairly conservative Democratic legislature that passed that ban law.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching the Afterspin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.